have and operate with incredible consistency and commitment to yourself, that you can achieve anything you want to achieve. And, there's no skill set you need to be born with, no special talent. It's about being in the right place at the right time and taking action. And I think the thing about, JR and I, when we started just with this organization 30 years ago, there was nothing to believe in except belief itself, for you to have enough belief in who you are, that you're going to go out and you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and you're going to stick to your word. In today's society, still 30 years later, that's more than most people do. It's a funny thing because, we say like we want to make it. We say we want to go for it, but, do we do the necessary things to really get there? When we stop and really take a look in the mirror, or I reflect on my own life and my husband's life, and I think about the things when things worked and when they didn't work, it really took effort. And the things that we wanted to succeed really succeeded. And the things that, weren't that important, we let fall to the wayside. And that's the way it is in real life for all of us. He was a genius. He simply thought that, in 1992, that if people, would grasp the internet, if people would eventually get on computers, people would eventually buy the things that they love, want, and need, like shoes, like vitamins, like cosmetics online, and not going to the stores as much. And in 92, that was hard to believe, right? Because nobody wanted to believe that. Everybody thought that was crazy, preposterous. Nobody even had a computer back then. You'd have to go to the library to get online. But of course, he stuck with it. And he found a team of people like myself and others to believe it also. And that's a big part of what I want to talk to you about with leadership and entrepreneurship and being successful, because it's finding the right people. It's teaming up with the right people. It's sticking through with a commitment to go from ordinary to extraordinary. It's so simple, yet people make it complicated. And so, listen, people don't wake up and they're not born extraordinary. You know what I mean? They don't wake up and say, oh, well, this is it. I'm extraordinary. No, they work at it. They can reprogram their brains. They program their minds to believe that instead of saying, I can't, they say, I can. Because JR and I were regular people and are regular people. We had no money to go out and really enjoy life. We didn't have any money that we were renting. We didn't have any ownership. We were working for somebody else's success. And to be quite honest, we hated it. We hated every minute of it. And I think one of the things that JR taught me really early is that we could actually build our own world, and others could too. And we could actually live in it, and other people could live in our world that we built in. And so that was a really bold thing for me to understand and learn, because at the time I was only 18 years old, to think about people wanting to be in our world, and for people wanting to earn the right by working hard and consistently working hard for themselves. Because the funny thing about people is they'll work hard for somebody else, but they won't work hard for themselves. And I never understood that. So he was taking a driving point, pain, in our case, pain. I had just lost my mother. The year, she was 42 years old. The company just started. He had a true belief that people would shop online one day. And he was right. But more importantly than people shopping online, he wanted to give literally thousands upon thousands of people an opportunity to make money online, to have a business online, and a business where they could set the limits. And so today, of course, we're $1 billion company, and people are making millions of dollars every year. People who were ordinary, who went to extraordinary by doing a few simple things. But remember, extraordinary lives don't just happen, right? People who have achieved success don't wake up that way. They understand that the true key to success is not being born into money, not inheriting money, not having the best education in the world. It's the ability that comes within us, how we see ourselves within, the things that we're willing to do, what we're willing to do, how we're willing to reprogram our brain. And when you first start, that whole idea is so important, because three things are the most important thing to help a company succeed. One is the idea. The idea's got to be great. So for JR in 92, people shopping online and giving people a way to earn money was extraordinary, because it had never been done. People thought it was preposterous, but that was going to take a lot of work, a lot of belief, from people to get them to change their thinking. Well, it was a matter of time. It didn't happen right away, the internet, but the idea was there and he stuck with it. We stuck with it. He built a solid team. And that team, remember, the second thing you have to have is money, right? We didn't start with a lot of capital. In fact, we started with almost none. I think we had about $21,000 in our bank account. That's all we had. Starting a huge business, that's pretty amazing, right? So imagine starting with the internet, buying computers that were used, starting up. Most people didn't even have computers back then, and trying to figure out a software program that would actually not only allow people to shop online, but the people who were selling online would be able to make extraordinary money. And they wouldn't have to have a college education. They wouldn't have to have money in the bank. They wouldn't have to have connections, things of that nature. It was really amazing. And what we did was find the right people. And so I think the big key was building the right team. And Jared was a big proponent in building the right team. He was smart enough to know that if we found the right people, we could work off of each other's strengths and weaknesses. And whatever I was missing or he was missing, we would have somebody else on the team help us with. So for instance, obviously we weren't the best ourselves at sourcing products, right? But he would find a great sourcer that came to work with us on the team. Jared was great at actually formulating products because he was a biologist by trade. Mark and I, my president, we were both willing to do whatever it took. We were fully in, fully believed. And what he did was he didn't have to give away ownership of the company. What he did was commit to people that their life would change. And today I can tell you that 30 years later, those same people are on our team and their lives have changed. And everything he said came true. Why? Because he was determined that he would not quit. And so I think it's really incredible because what it really boils down to is not really about the money. It's not really about the idea of those things are important. And by the way, we spend 30 years perfecting them. So when somebody gets involved with our business, the greatest thing is that those things are already out of the way. We've taken the hard things out of the way. But working with the team was probably the most important of all of them. Why? Because I knew, and research shows that when you work with a team of people, the things that you're afraid to do, you won't be afraid to do anymore. That you're not afraid to try, that you have people to help hold you accountable. And because of it, you hold yourself more accountable. And that when you're working with a group of people who are learning with you, and I will say this is the finest group in this organization, in our company, because they're the type of people who actually work with everybody. They actually do it with them. They show them how to do it. So you don't have to come in here with an education, knowing anybody, money. If you just come in there with the right attitude and say, you know what, I'm going to do this because I'm determined to make it happen, because I have belief in myself. Instead of saying I can't do something, I'm going to say I can. You're with the right people. And that's what's really incredible. And of course, the company gives you a blueprint for success. It lays everything out. We give you a blueprint for success. Everything's laid out. All you have to do is follow the proven business plan. 30 years later, we're still incredibly successful, more so today than we were yesterday. And when we started out in our home and, we asked people to join us back then, not everybody did, because not everybody has that belief. Not everybody joins our business when we first tell them about it. That doesn't mean it's not a great business. It's a great business. Sometimes timing's just not right for everybody. And we've learned that. We've learned to say, you know what? Sometimes people will, sometimes they won't. So what? It doesn't matter. What matters is your belief in yourself. And so for me, I think at a young age, at 18, for me, it was very clear in my mind that the only way to succeed was to learn from somebody, to work with a team, and to have the belief in knowing that if I never gave up, if I stayed consistent with it, if I was consistent and I kept my commitments to me, I would make it. And that's really what the real problem is in real life, is that most people won't commit to themselves, right? We have this big thing called New Year's every year, and everybody writes down their goals and resolutions. And normally what happens, you guys know, and I see so many great leaders on this call tonight, is that, and we've seen this from people over time, that, they won't commit. They'll say they're going to do something, whether it be stop smoking, do a business, finally achieve financial success, give it all they got, stop working for somebody else's dreams, whatever their goal is, they say they're going to do it, go for losing weight. And what happens is after a few days at the gym or a few days of trying, they give up. And they go in with that attitude or that language that says, hey, you know what? I'm going to try this for 30 days. I'm going to try this for 30 days. And that's the language of the poor. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. You cannot say, I'm going to try something for 30 days. Because if you really have it in you, and you know that if you're working with an incredible team, and you know you have with a company that has an incredible idea and it's proven, and has all the finances behind it, the support behind it, all the tools you need to succeed. If you know it's just about you, if you really want to make it, you don't have to make it about anything else except your belief. That's all you have to do is put yourself in it. And the problem is that we've learned that, most people won't do what we did, and the reason why I think so often, right, that Jared and I were successful and team is that Jared and I were willing to do things that other people weren't willing to do. We were the ones who were willing to practice and practice and practice and learn the business. I had to learn to find out where good vendors were and learn how to speak to people about our business and learn how to share products and not be afraid to do things that I was afraid to do. And, I did things that other people weren't willing to do. And I wrote down, Jared taught me to make a list when I was 18. It was probably the greatest gift he ever gave me. Why? Because he taught me chunks of time. We used to work in 10-minute time zones. So JR believed in 10-minute time zones because in 10 minutes, you could do a lot. And he used to task me with big things in 10 minutes. The other thing he used to tell me is you do the hardest things first every day, the most important things that will help you achieve your goals. Well, some people say, well, I can't do that because I go to work for somebody else at 9 o'clock, then get up earlier. Can't do it when you get home because you got to feed the kids, make dinner, or maybe you have to help with homework. I get it. So you stay up later and you do it. And those are the things that we were willing to do that most people aren't willing to do. So the crazy people who are willing to do it, no special skill, no special talent, were able to do it because we would do things like that. And that list skill was one of the greatest gifts that my husband ever gave me. And I still use it to this day all over my office. I have sticky notes everywhere and each one of them are labeled by importance. So I do the hardest things first every day, no matter what. I get them done. And those things that are hard are the things that'll help me get my business to the next level. They're not things that are going to waste my time or things I don't want to do. I'm not talking about things like, making a phone call to complain about something I don't want. I'm talking about things that are going to help me get to the next level. I do those first every day. And then I make sure I go to bed with the list for tomorrow. Tell me what I have to do. Best gift he ever gave me in life. It made me more efficient. The second best skill he ever gave me was working with teams, working with people. And the reason why that was so important, of course, is because I learned to figure out what other people's strengths were, and I knew what my weaknesses were, and I would learn from them. I would go and learn from them. I'd watch them do it. I would do things, and Jared would do things that other people wouldn't do. If somebody was better at explaining how to get somebody to sell us products in the early days when they wouldn't, and we didn't have the money to get people to just believe in us automatically, I learned how to speak really well and get people to listen to me. But that took practice. We drove hours in cars that people wouldn't do. We did things that most people would never consider doing, drive state to state for 3-4 days in a row to host meetings. Our big dates were Wendy's. We always joke about it still today. Our big dates were going to Wendy's Super Bar. Back then they had like a Wednesday night Super Bar. You could have like all you can eat tacos. And that was our big date because that's all we could afford to do. But we did everything that other people wouldn't do in order to have anything we would want later in life, and also help thousands of other people do the same things. Because one thing for sure, I think about, JR and myself, that we really, I learned this from my husband, but I can tell you that nothing is more true, I think, today than anything, is that living a life of significance is so much more important than living a life of success. And what that means is living a life of significance means you are successful, but you're helping other people succeed as well. The feeling that you get when you can help other people succeed, I cannot explain it. It is the greatest feeling in the world. We grow up and some of you may have children, some of you may have siblings and you don't have children yet, and you watch. If you have children, like, you can watch yourself struggle as a parent. You could be the greatest parent in the world, but your kids may not think so. right? Your kids may say, oh, they're okay, or, they're tough, and they're going through their own thing. And so it's hard to get, even though you love your kids and you want to see them succeed and you work so hard for that, your real feeling of true fulfillment comes when you can help other people succeed. And you can do that faster and easier with a team. And I've never seen anything like it anywhere else except in this business, because there are a lot of successful people in this world, right? There's a whole lot of successful people, but most of them don't help other people succeed. Other people help them succeed. And I feel like the difference, the thing that I guess has made us so different, why we are pioneers is something so incredible, is that we've actually spent 30 years of our life not worrying about our own success, but worrying about the lives of thousands of others succeeding. And because of it, we have always kept the main thing, and that's about people. Because if you actually help people succeed, you will automatically succeed. So people say, well, what's the best skill you need to do your business? Or what's the talent you need? Nothing. You need drive. You need incredible drive, incredible commitment to consistency. I can tell you, I never had a college education. The closest I ever got to college was talking at University of Miami many times when I spoke on entrepreneurship, and they bring me back year after year. And I've spoken at probably 12 different colleges across the nation, many times about entrepreneurship and leadership. And it's one of my favorite things to do, because when I sit up there and I talk to people about, my story and how we've come from nothing, and we didn't have money, and we never had a car, and we were borrowing macaroni and cheese from my parents, and we didn't have the things that other people dreamed or wanted. What we wished for was something different. What we wished for was a life of significance, a life that we could create products that would actually not only help us, but help other people, but also a way for people to not only just buy products online, because we knew that would catch on. It was a matter of time before technology would catch on, but a way for thousands of people to actually make a living selling products online, and not just a little bit of living. People are making millions of dollars in an organization doing that. And that was so important to us, and it's funny, over 30 years, I think one of the funny things I always think about is that people are funny, right? They'll come around and they'll say, well, like, oh, it looks so easy for you. Certainly it looks easy now when people look at things, and you look at the big homes and cars, and you can go to Drayton's house and look, and everything looks really pretty, but you don't see all the work it takes to get to that place. And so people don't realize the effort that goes in, the blood, the sweat, the tears. That's the stuff I'm talking about, that it takes in order to live a life of extraordinariness. To go from ordinary to extraordinary is a simple mindset. It's a simple change of thinking in the head. We think it takes skill. We think it takes going to college. I never did any of those things. I didn't have any money. I was borrowing money from my mom. I was borrowing mac and cheese from my mom to make my husband hated mac and cheese at the end of our life together. And I'll explain that in a minute at the end. But, he hated those type of things, because after you have to do it for a long time, you decide you don't have to do it anymore, right? And so we did things because we wanted to prove that they could be done. And when we proved that they could be done, it was much easier for people to believe. So here's the thing, all the hard stuff was done over the last 30 years. The idea, the lack of money, finding the team, we did all that. And then we took thousands of other people's lives along the way and helped them transform their lives by doing the exact same thing that JR and I did, which is simply just turning a switch on in their brain. And turning that switch on to say, you know what, I can do this. I am capable. I am more than enough. I have all the things I need to be extraordinary. And, I know what happens. It's like we think it could never happen to us. For some reason, we think it's not made for us. It's not me. And that's because you listen to the loud voice in your head instead of listening to the small whispers in the back of your brain. Instead of listening to that little voice that says, why can't this be me? Can this be me? I can do this. I really can do this. See, we never hear that voice because we're always drowning ourselves out, because we've programmed ourselves and other people have programmed ourselves our whole life, so we don't succeed. So they tell us we can't do it. It's made for somebody else. And so what happens is people end up looking for this flaw, okay? So, my husband, for those of you, some of you know this, and there's a lot of new people on here tonight that may not know this. I've been married for 36 years to the love of my life. My husband was extraordinary, extraordinary, had no money. What he offered me when I first met him was belief, a vision, a thought that I was able to be anything I wanted to be. And even though he wasn't what he wanted to be at that moment, he literally would tell me the story and I could see it happening. I could visualize it. I knew that it took no special abilities. And by the way, he went to all the greatest schools, and he'd tell me all the time, not one of those schools, Loren, ever gave me what I needed to build this business. And I used to tell him, I don't know if I can do what you do. I don't have a college degree. I don't have a double master's like you do, JR. He said, you know what? I've never used any of it, Loren. What I used was my heart. What I used is my thoughts. I reprogrammed my brain. I became consistent with my work, and I stopped looking at other people and looking for their flaws. And I'd start seeing the real me and the person who could make a difference. And, we just had this big, extraordinary event just a week ago. And, when I went into it, my husband in August 30th passed away suddenly, unexpectedly, devastating, changed my life. And many of you on here know that. And it's broken my heart, and it shattered my heart into pieces. When you live with someone for 36 years, when you love someone with all your being, with everything I've ever had in my life, he gave me everything, taught me everything. And the most important thing he ever taught me was self-belief, self-confidence. He instilled it in me. So when he passed away, the strangest thing happened. I woke up one day and I started to realize that I didn't have my confidence. And I lost my belief for a moment in myself. And you realize that that's something that he gave, that power to me that was so special. But then I remembered something. I remembered that he didn't give it to me. He taught me how to turn it on. He taught me how to turn it on. So if I just kept listening to the small voice in my brain, instead of the voice that said, it's not going to work, he's not here, what are you going to do? How are people going to listen to you? Even though you've done this for 30 years together, you need him. I heard the little voice in my head, which was him, saying, you can do it. You've been doing it for 30 years. And when we went to our event, I thought to myself, hours before I went up, I had this whole thing thought through I was going to say, and I just totally just trashed it. And I said, you know what I'm going to do? I know what people are doing. They're thinking to themselves, you know what? They're looking for my flaws. They could be looking for my flaws, saying, hey, you know what? This is a good excuse. This is a good excuse why I don't need to do marketamericanshop.com because JR is not here anymore. Okay, let's just take this one as and that's what we do our whole life. Our whole life, we look for somebody else to take the responsibility rather than us. And I could have done that day, but I didn't. I heard the little voice in me say, get up. You can do this just as good as you've been doing it for 30 years. And let me tell you something, when you have to start all over again and learn the same thing that you've been doing for 30 years and you pick up the pieces again and you're suffering through grief, you lost the love of your life, but you can put the pieces of the puzzle back together again because you can turn on a switch in your brain and tell yourself that I'm more than capable and that I can do this. Your life changes. Everything changes overnight. And that I realized that the only flaw was the one I saw. That what the flaw within me, that I had to fix that. There was no flaws with the organization. There was no flaws with the company. JR was right. I needed to believe that all the things I had been able to do in my life and that came from nothing, that I never had the schooling for, that I never had the talent for, that I never had the skill for, that I learned over 30 years that I could do again. And so I got on that stage and I told people, I'm not your problem. I'm not the flaw. The only flaw in the room is you if you stop yourself, if you get in the way of yourself. And that's what happens to us our whole life. We get in the way of ourselves and we stop ourselves from believing that anything is possible. And so you're not the flaw. And it's you and you alone that determines what happens. And the difference is my attitude. The difference is my attitude, that my attitude says I'm capable on doing anything. That in fact, the only person I can count on is me. And especially right now, the only person I can count on is me. And in order to go from ordinary to extraordinary, I need to make the right decisions and work with the right team. And that's what I choose to do. And I still have this amazing company that has the right tools and the right team and the right commitment. And we're an unstoppable force. And I think what happens for you is when you finally say to yourself, you know what, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Maybe your story is, you know what, you're tired of struggling to make ends meet. Maybe it's that you're tired of wondering when it's your time. Let me tell you when it's your time. You determine that. When you decide, your life will change and you will no longer tolerate the way you've been living. And that's what happens. You see, when I ask, I always love to do a lot of, oftentimes when I'm on stage, I always like to do a lot of interaction with people. People know that I like to go around the room and ask questions, but I always like to collect information. I always like to ask my friends who are successful, who live a life of significance, what's the two big things you would do that you've done, that you think have really changed your life, that have really given your life significance and success? And they all say the same thing. Is when they got out of their own way, when they finally decided that they deserved to live the life that they dreamed of at night, the one that they thought of, the one that they saw other people live. That was number one, when they just flipped the switch and said, you know what, I can do this and I will do this. It's a mindset. It's the change of a mindset. And the second thing was when they got around the right team. And that's because it's well known that when you work with the right team, your life can change. Things get easier because you're not afraid to do things that you may have been afraid to do before. You can learn the skills, guys. You don't need the talent. Everything you've ever needed exists right here inside you. And that's what I reminded myself just over the last 6 months when I lost my husband, who I miss terribly every day, but I forgot. And it's easy to forget because we get drowned out. Grief is a funny thing. You listen to this nonsense in your head. Failure is a funny thing too. You listen to nonsense in your head. When you don't get where you want to be, and I sometimes tease people about this. You get in the gym and you're like, oh, I'm going to start working out. And then you get in the mirror and you put 3 days in and you're like, where are my abs? Well, you don't see abs after 3 days. You just can't. But if you keep working at it, do you think you'll see abs? Absolutely. You don't think that when a child learns to walk, they don't get up and fall down and get up and fall down and say, hey, mom and dad, this walking thing's not for me. They get up and they learn to walk. And for some reason, when we're young, we can do that. But when we get older, we freak out and we think it's not meant for us. We think it's not made for us. And there's nothing can be further than the truth. Really, the difference is it's now or never. See, the real reason people are afraid to try anything is because they've let themselves down all along. They know that they break commitments to themselves. Why? Because you don't pay yourself what you're worth. You don't give yourself what you're worth. You let your boss pay you and you'll work for him to change his life, but you won't put yourself first. And that's the crazy thing to me. Like, if you can take 8 to 10 hours of your week and you put it into you and your life could change, and I guarantee it, would you do it? Would you count on you? And I mean, really commit to it. Not say I'm going to try it, not say I'm going to give it a shot for 30 days, but like work with a team who can actually change your life, that can help you change your life and do it with you. See, that's when things start to happen. When you say to yourself, I'm going to give it all I got, because all I got is me. The only person I can count on is me. See, one of the reasons I knew I was winning when I was 18 years old is there was 2 of us, JR and I. And the only thing we had was each other. There was no money. There was no fancy meals. There was no fancy cars. In fact, we had an awful car. I don't even want to tell you what it looked like. It was awful. It was a beat up Honda. It had a broken headlight, a broken side light. We used to get stopped for tickets all the time, and we couldn't afford to pay the tickets that we got for riding around with a broken headlight. Then we couldn't afford to pay our bills. I got real good at changing my voice when they were trying to collect. The bill collector was calling. I've lived that life. And I knew that we were different. I knew that we were willing to make a great investment in ourselves. And that's what one person has to just say to themselves. You know what? If I'm not growing, I'm going to die. And it's later than you think. And people always think they have time on their side. They always think they have time on their side. So the reason why that people don't take advantage of great opportunity is, number one, they don't see it. They don't see it because it looks like work, and they're not getting paid by themselves to work, which is the most foolish thing ever. Because you know what? To be successful, it takes work, but it takes a hell of a lot less work working for yourself and doing it for yourself than it does working for somebody else. And they achieve all the success. And that's the crazy thing. We'll put in all the hours for somebody else's dreams, but we won't put in the extra hours for our dreams. And those dreams pay you big time. I'm telling you, I'm a living testimony of it. These people, some of these people invited you here are living testimonies of it. They've not only changed their life, they've changed the lives of their families. And so all you have to do is feed your mind with the right people, the right team, and you can learn the new skills. You can improve the things that you feel like you don't have. So people don't go for a big opportunity because they miss it. They don't see it. And the second reason they don't go for it, and the only other reason they don't go for it, is they think they have a lot of time. And let me tell you something, it's later than you think. You think that somebody gave my husband a memo on August 30th and said, hey, babe, today's our last day together. They don't do that. He didn't get a letter. He didn't get notification from the man upstairs and say, it's today. Today's the day. Give her a big hug. Tell her that you love her. Did you do all the things you want to do? So let me ask you a question. If you don't know when your time's coming, and we don't know when that is, or the people that we love, would you be thrilled with where you're at today? You have to ask yourself, am I where I want to be? Have I done the things I want to do? Have I accomplished what I want to accomplish? Because the one thing I can say that JR definitely did, and that I have definitely done over 30 years, is that we've spent our life over the last 30 years doing the things that we wanted to do. And in the beginning, the first 2 years were a lot of work, a lot more work than most people were willing to put in. But those few years paid us for the rest of our life and paid our team. And our team is in the thousands, tens of thousands of people are living a better life because of it. And so that work in the beginning years set us up for our future years. And I was thinking about it, and I told some of my team this the other day when I was in grief counseling just recently with Serena Williams. The grief counselor was going around the room talking to people about, the pain that they feel inside. And grief is just, if you've ever experienced, it's awful. It's not something I don't know. I lost my mom at the age of 42. I lost my father at the age of 63. So losing my husband, who I love the most of anybody in my lifetime, I just thought that was the worst feeling in the world. I lived with him more than anybody because I lost my parents young. So I've known grief, not to feel like this. This is a grief I can't explain. And so I have, by the way, a pact with God that this is the last time I'll endure grief in this lifetime. And that's it. So when I heard the other people go through their pain in their heart like I'm going through, it was awful. And I felt comforted by the fact that I'm not the only one, but something happened on that call. And they said, you know what? They weren't just grieving the person they loved. Their whole life changed overnight. They couldn't afford to stay in their homes. They couldn't keep their cars. Many of them had to move out, go live back home with their parents, couldn't keep their kids in school, had life-altering things because of one person who was paying the bills at home. Let me tell you something. You don't want to live that way. It is later than you think. You do not get a memo. You don't get to decide when he calls you. I know that. I just went through it 6 months ago. I'm telling you, I woke up like any other day, and so did JR. He didn't get called by God early and say, hey, this is it. But what he did do is get to live his life the way he wanted to live it and help thousands of people live a life of not only success, but significance, because he decided to do something with his life. And at first, we spent 6 to 8 hours a week until we had the time. Our hustle was in the morning and at night, in between regular work hours, okay? And then we had enough money to kind of give up that job. When I say enough money, like $20,000 to give up and go full time with our efforts in this business. Those are things other people wouldn't have done. We drove the miles, we put in the hours, we went to the meetings, we did things that other people wouldn't do in order to take our life to another level and go above and beyond what's ordinary to do and start doing extraordinary things in order to be different. And we still do it every single day of our life. And in order to become different, in order to become extraordinary, you have to live a life around people that have the same thoughts, the same dreams, the same passions, the same goals that you have. You may not want the same type of cars or the same type of, live in the same type of places, but they have a desire to help other people, and they're willing to do more than what somebody else is willing to do in order to have it. You don't need the education, you don't need the money, you don't need the skill set. You can learn that. All you need is belief in yourself and consistency and commitment to yourself, which is the one thing that's lacking in this world today. There is a lack of belief in humanity, in people. And it's something that I feel really proud that this company really prides itself on, that working together as a group of people, that not only do we work on building ourselves and building entrepreneurs, but we work on personal development. Because without personal development, you cannot achieve incredible business success. One doesn't get to be a 10 and the other one a 2. They equal each other out, right? In order to be great, you have to have both things in alignment. In order to achieve success, you've got to finally align your goals and dreams with what you want. And your mind's got to believe that, or you can't have it. You cannot have it. It's very, very simple. Here's the difference. Why should you do it? Because this time it's for you. It's the only reason you should do it right now is because this time it's for you. And every other day you're doing it for somebody else. And you got to start to value your time and your energy and say, you know what? I'm going to put the right people around me. I want to work with the right team. And if somebody can put me in the right direction and work with me and guide me and help me, I'm going to do it. And here's another reason why. Because it's your choice. And you should make it a yes for you. Whether it's with me, whether it's with this company, whether it's with this incredible team who's outstanding, who I work with proudly every day, and I don't have to. I do it because I want to. And some of these leaders don't do it because they have to. They do it because they want to. And the funny thing about them is I think about this all the time when you get to work with people like whether it be Marks or Steven or Drayton or whoever it was, the Jennifers, the Allisons, those people who invited you tonight. Let me tell you something. They're not charging you to teach you what they know. These are people who have done it for the last several years. They've lived it. They've done it. They've done the things that other people aren't willing to do. They're not charging you for what they know. They're saying, I'm willing to work with anyone who has a strong desire, who has a strong belief and commits not only to me, but themselves. Because just committing to me or Drayton or the team or the leaders won't matter one bit at all. What matters is when you finally get sick and tired of being sick and tired and say, you know what, it's for me. I'm going to finally count on me. It's about me. I determine it now. I deserve it now. I have all that I need to be this now. I don't have any flaws. I don't see any flaws. And stop looking at me, other people, for flaws. I'm not interested. And let me tell you something. In the beginning, it'll be hard, but it'll be worth it. It'll be worth it. It feels so good to get somewhere where most people will never get. It feels so good to live a life of significance when other people can reach out to you and say, thank you for making a difference in my life, for helping me not only achieve financial success with this company, but personal growth and development with this company. I don't know a better organization that couples the two together to help people, because we know one thing for sure, without them both working in tandem, it will never work. So you get to live a life that's incredible, work with a group of people who are outstanding, who have the missions, the goals, the dreams that you have, but are doing it. And they've been right where you are right now, just like me. It's really, really easy to listen to other people, but I never listen to anyone who hasn't been where I've been before. All of these people that I work with on this call, and there's hundreds of them, have been exactly where I have been. And so listen, it is later than you think, and it's a choice that you get to make, and it's up to you. But if you decide not to do it, that's okay. But stop pointing at somebody and said it doesn't work because it doesn't work. It doesn't work because you don't work it. And I've gotten to that place in my life that it's okay to say, hey, I'm just not going to do it. I'm content with being, if that's what you're okay with, then let it be. So be it. But it's okay to say the truth. I'm content with living a life of just okayness. Nothing's going to change for me because I'm not willing to do anything extraordinary. But if you're willing to wake up an extra hour earlier, if you're willing to go to bed 2 hours later and get less sleep, and by the way, I do it every night of my life, not because I have to, because I want to. Because I want to see more lives change, because I have more work to do, because you're important to me, because I know you're capable, that you're more than enough, that you have it inside of you, and that if I can do it, and if JR can do it, you can do it. That we're living proof that anything anybody wants to be just starts with the flip of a switch. It has nothing to do with finances or skill or talent. It has to do with desire and drive and commitment and consistency, and to finally say to myself, I am not going to quit on me. I'm not going to quit on me. And if I got to take a second job to do it, I'll do it. And whatever I got to do, I'm going to put that time in it. If my second job is going to be working and doing this for myself, and I'm going to do it from 6 p.m. till midnight, I'll do it that way. Those are the things that are going to make all the difference in the world. And I guarantee you, if you commit to something like that, then a year from now, you and I are going to be celebrating. We're going to be celebrating because you're going to achieve all types of success, not just financial success. And success is relative, right? It's like everybody wants something different. But I'm talking about true success, success where you can actually say, you know what? I was able to change my life by simply changing my thoughts, by reprogramming my thoughts in my brain to believe that I can do something finally for myself. Because you know what? She did. Because he did, because Drayton did, because these leaders did. And let me tell you something, it's life altering, it's life changing. And you know, to be a part of a team that makes so much sense, that does so much to help other people, I can't tell you what that means. For me, it's like every time you know, and you're listening to somebody, probably some of you are listening to me for the first time, don't know who this crazy girl is talking like this. I get it. Google me. That's what my answer is for you. Google me. Let me tell you something. Live a life of real significance. I never judge people any way, shape, or form. People get to live their life the way they want to do it. That's on them. Because at the end of the day, at the end of your life, when it comes down to it, and they ask you, and you have to come face to face with one person, and that's only you. Did you get to live your life the way you wanted? There's only one person you can blame if you didn't. It's you. And you know, when I was in Croatia trying to get my husband's body home when he passed away, there was a woman there in the funeral home. And she must have been like 81, 82 years old. She was so sweet. She was American. And she was working much harder than I to get out because I already had a lot of connections and I knew the right people and I was going to get my husband home. I was determined. Nobody was going to tell me my husband wasn't going to fly home with me, even if I brought him home on my lap. He was coming home. And so when I was there with her, she was talking to me about, was that my husband? And I said, yes. And she said she had just lost her husband too. And all she did for the next hour was talk about the regret of things they never did. And as she sat there, I couldn't help but my mind drifting, thinking about my husband and that we did all the things that we wanted to do. And that although he may not be physically present to see all the thousands of lives more he wanted to change, that thousands of lives more will change because of the business he built, because the team he built, because the people he believed in who taught them to believe in themselves, because the other leaders who thought enough of you to invite you tonight to something so special. It's much more than a business, this company. It's a movement. It's a movement to change your life, to change your thinking, to work on your personal development, to work on your personal growth, to be with a group of people who actually like it. And I'm going to reach out and say it. You're with probably one of the luckiest groups ever because I work with them personally and I'm the owner of the company. And I don't know many people who commit their life to doing that, but it's my whole commitment. My whole life's mission is to make this even bigger and better for the other guy that's upstairs waiting for me now. And that's big time for me. And I don't break my promises. So with that, I got to tell you, there's nothing more special than being here with you tonight. And that's because I've been where you are before. And the only way that you can make a difference or change your life is to make a simple decision that, you know what, I need more information. I need to find out more. I'm not going to just give it a try, because you don't miss opportunity, because most people do, because it comes in the form of work, or you think, you know what, there's always time next month. There's always time next month, which we don't know. If you really want to get to a place where you get to decide, where you can wake up and feel that your life matters, that you've made a difference on other people's lives, you know what? What's the big deal in finding out more? Collecting more information, learning more information, getting the details. You can always say it doesn't work out for you. It's not for me. You've done that your whole life. That's easy. We already know how to say that. But instead, try saying, you know what? I'll get more information. Try saying, you know what? This is the type of team I've been looking for. These are the type of team that I want to align myself with. These are the type of goals and dreams that I have for myself. And I see what they're doing to make a difference, not only for themselves, but the thousands of others. Because that's what you'll find in this team right here. That's what you'll find. It's much more than what's up here. It's what's in here. They have something in their heart. And so it's a special time. You've been invited to a special meeting. And I know I've talked a lot, so I'll stop right now, but I could go on forever. And I do this anytime you guys want me to, but I'm here for you. Really here for you. It's a big opportunity. Don't miss out on at least collecting more information. You owe it to yourself. Thank you.
Wow, Loren, literally, like, I don't know about all you guys on the call, but I feel like Loren just like pierced me. Like, she's talking, I know there's a couple hundred people on this call, but it's like, I just felt like I was the only one on this call. And like everything that she was going through, the principles of leadership, the pillars of success, living a life of significance, impacting other people, and making a difference, and giving the idea, having the idea and the money and being like, that's all cool, that's great, but you need the right people, you need a team in order to do it. I mean, I can't close. I think she did it. I just want to highlight, some of you guys might be, that was it. I mean, some of you guys might be wondering what's the